friends. It has been a long time since I've done one of these, and perhaps you can hear it right now, but I am shuffling, and that is because it is time for a weekly tarot reading regarding all the different transits that are going on this week. What a week I chose to start doing this again, because there is so much astrological weather going on this week. For starters, today, Sunday, what's the date today? I don't know. I have not been keeping tracks of dates ever since quarantine, but indeed today is Sunday, May 10th. So today we start out with Saturn going retrograde in Capricorn. And you know, planets going retrograde are time to slow down and re-examine and like reevaluate and read this, read that, do over. And so with Saturn, it's really talking about like our path and like if we're doing due diligence in what we're doing in our lives. So over this retrograde period, Saturn will be moving out of Aquarius and back into Capricorn. So it's kind of like a realignment in some ways. Of course, both Aquarius and Capricorn are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is right at home in his in these two signs. But you know, a sign shift, even if the planet is still in dignity in both signs, is still pretty significant. So lucky us, we get to revisit some of those Capricorn themes that we thought we were getting rid of, but nuh-uh. There's still some more work that needs to be done there. So hopefully this retrograde Saturn energy will help us do that, and we'll only grow as a result, and hopefully it won't cause us too much trouble. On Monday, we have a couple big things happening. We have Mercury in Taurus square Mars in Aquarius, and that's happening at 28 degrees. So, Mars square Mercury, this can be arguments. This can be just like verbal spats here and there, especially with Mars being in Aquarius. People may feel like their intellect is, you know, under attack. So if you're the type of person who likes to throw words, likes to get a little bit feisty, and you regret it a lot of the time afterwards, you might want to be careful on Monday, because you know the energy is in the air for this to happen. And I was shuffling, and one of my cards just fell out of the deck. Two of my cards just fell out of the deck. I will just put those back in and continue shuffling and talking about the different transits going on this week. So yes, Mars square Mercury, and Mercury being in Taurus, let me tell you, Mercury in Taurus is stubborn as fuck, okay? So people are going to be feeling under attack. They're not going to be open to seeing your side of the situation. So, you know, things might get a little bit heated. And so, just be aware of that. Try not to insult people into oblivion on Monday, because, you know, nobody wants that. Also on Monday, we have Mercury entering Gemini. So this square to Mars happens, and then Mercury moves on to Gemini. Of course, Mercury moves on pretty quickly, so even though we have this square happening in the fixed signs, it's not a long-lived square, and Mercury just gets on out of there really quickly. And Mercury in Gemini is such a lovely place for Gemini, or is such a lovely place for Mercury to be. This is my natal placement. And, you know, Mercury and Gemini, they're quick-witted, they're more open to new ideas than Mercury in Taurus is. So, you know, it just might happen that this thing that you got so up in arms about that you just exploded over, you might have been in the wrong and you might realize this. Or it might be, you know, the person who was yelling at you, they might realize they were wrong. And it would depend on like the individual person whether or not they're willing to admit that. But, you know, at least there is some type of opportunity for reconciliation, especially because Venus is in the sign of Mercury. There's not a conjunction between Mercury and Venus, but there is a co-presence in the sign, and that's generally a really nice flavor that will be added on top of Mercury entering Gemini. Tuesday, May 12th, we have some more big things happening. We have Mercury entering Gemini, which happened the previous day, and soon after that happens, Mercury has a nice little trine with Saturn and Aquarius at 1 degree of both the signs. And along the lines of people recognizing that they're in the wrong, this trine to Saturn brings about, you know, this air of responsibility. So people might be taking responsibility for what they said or their actions. Well, not really their actions, but what they said during this heated moment earlier in the week. This, because it is a trine, it seems more like somebody taking that responsibility upon themselves instead of, you know, responsibility being forced at them. So this might be, you know, a public apology type of thing, where you realize you're wrong and, you know, instead of just pretending like it didn't happen, you're mature enough, Saturn likes to be mature, you're mature enough to own up to your mistakes, own up to whatever misinformation you were spouting, and, you know, move on and grow from that, because that is what Saturn wants us to do. And a Mercury in Gemini is that type of energy, is, you know, willing to learn. So that's very nice for that day. And also on Tuesday, we have Mars entering Pisces. Now, Mars generally does not enjoy being in Pisces. It's not the worst place it's not the worst place for Mars to be, but Pisces is definitely not Mars's favorite place to be. So in order for, you know, to have a functional Mars in a water sign, especially Pisces, which is just so, you know, Mars likes a certain amount of control in order to be productive. That's why he loves being in Capricorn, because Capricorn can provide that environment of control. There's not that same environment, there's not that same structure in the sign of Pisces. And so Mars has to deal with how to act when, you know, there's no direction. What am I supposed to do with all this energy when I don't know where I should be channeling it? And, you know, the only thing I can think of to do is, you know, dance. Let's dance. Let's have a dance party on Tuesday. Because Mars in Pisces is perfect for a dance party. None of this ballroom crap, you know, this freestyle dancing. That is what Mars in Pisces likes to do. Because, you know, when you're freestyling, you're really just in the moment and feeling what is coming to you. There's no forethought, there's no planning, and that's what Mars in Pisces likes to do. So let's just all dance on Tuesday and we'll have a fun time. On the off side, if you are used to having this structure, you might find that you fall off of this structure when Mars enters Pisces, because, you know, Mars is not in that Saturn-ruled sign anymore. Mars has been in Capricorn for a long time, then it moved on to Aquarius, and, you know, being in in Saturn ruled signs for the better part of, geez, I don't know, like at least like 4 to 5 months ish, for the better part of like a while. You know, there's structure to be gained there, and there's functionality for Mars. But, you know, suddenly moving into this Jupiter ruled sign where, you know, Jupiter's just like chill. He's just like, hang out, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Mars is going to have to work really hard in order to maintain that same amount of structure. And, you know, it might not be possible in all cases. So you might find that, you know, this routine you had for yourself, you might fall off of it a little bit. And instead of getting mad and frustrated at yourself, you can, you know, start to rethink things. You know, Saturn just went retrograde. Let's rethink our structures and our boundaries, and let's, you know, maybe loosen things up a little bit, because our energy is now shifting into this place where, you know, the bonds might need to be a little bit looser in order to see that same amount of productivity. On Wednesday, May 13th, we have Venus retrograde. So many planets going retrograde this week. So this idea of rethinking how we're doing things is just magnified by like what, 3 different planets going retrograde this week. We have Saturn going retrograde, we have Venus going retrograde, we have, what else do we have? We have Jupiter going retrograde, and then I think there's one other retrograde next week. I would have to check that. But at the very least, we have 3 planets going retrograde this week, so it's really time to slow down and, you know, reevaluate things. Anyways, Venus and Gemini at 21 degrees is going retrograde. So Venus retrograde is really about, you know, our relationships and our values. And being in Gemini, it's about, you know, kind of more that platonic type of relationship, how we're connecting socially with our acquaintances, our friends, our neighbors, instead of more like that intimate partner type of intimacy. It's a lot more light. So Venus going retrograde in Gemini, that will be about how we communicate with our friends and to some extent our colleagues a little bit, just because you have Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, still in that trine with Saturn. So yeah, to me, I'm like half expecting some more news about Zoom to come out. Like maybe they're finally gonna get their act together and there won't be like all this Zoom bombing or whatever the kids are calling it. Oh boy, I am not hip to the youth's lingo. Anyways, so yeah, we might hear news about, you know, these different policies being put into place regarding, you know, video call services. Like I'm pretty sure Zoom just put into place some policy that's supposed to stop all this Zoom bombing going on. So we might find like these things they put into place, they might not be working effectively, and they might have to rethink the way that they want to approach these different problems that they're having on their communication platform. Taking this outside of the realm of the internet, perhaps like, you know, there was this Mercury square Mars aspect earlier in the week, and Venus going retrograde, you know, maybe that chance to take responsibility for what was said, maybe it was missed, and maybe, you know, this square earlier in the week is going to lead to even bigger problems. Because, you know, like I said, not everybody is mature enough to take responsibility for themselves. And so if that happens to be the case, they might start to see their relationships changing, and, you know, the dynamic of friendship that they had with someone it might start to slow down a little bit. They might have to back away from certain relationships. And, you know, because Venus is retrograde, there will be a chance to revisit this at a later time. But if this theme continues of, you know, not taking responsibility for one's actions, you might see, you know, more serious consequences down the line. On Thursday, we have Jupiter going retrograde in Capricorn at 27 degrees. Again, there's another retrograde planet. Jupiter, I mean, Jupiter going retrograde isn't really such a quote-unquote bad thing per se. It's more just about, you know, taking some of that Jupiter energy and letting it go inward. So maybe you start to feel a little bit better about things. Maybe we're all gonna start getting a little bit more optimistic. In some ways, that optimism may be a bit dangerous. We are in a pandemic, and people feeling optimistic during a pandemic is great, but if that optimism has no bounds and people are so optimistic that things are going to be okay, that they just start, you know, returning to life as normal, that may bring about a second wave of infections. So, you know, I mean, Jupiter is in Capricorn, so there is this layer of reality and being realistic about the type of optimism that you have. But Jupiter going retrograde, you might want to just be aware of, you know, the hopes that you have, this optimism you have, and make sure, you know, it's not just a misguided feeling. Make sure you're still down to earth with, you know, your feelings. And to top off the week, on Friday, May 15th, we have the Sun square Pluto at 24 degrees. Nope, that is not a square, that is a trine. We have the Sun trine Pluto at 24 degrees of Taurus and Capricorn, respectively. So yeah, like I was talking about with Jupiter going retrograde, Pluto trine Sun is a great way to get in touch and get grounded, because, you know, Pluto isn't gonna bullshit you, especially Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn is a no bullshit type of placement. So the Sun trine that, especially in Taurus, it's like, Taurus don't got time for no bullshit either. So this might be a huge reality check type of transit for some people. Especially if you have personal planets that are squaring that aspect in any way. It might bring to light some things that, you know, you might not want to look at. But yeah, this is also a great placement for power and coming into one's own power. Like, a lot of stuff happened this week, and depending on how things go, you might, by the end of the week, you might feel beaten down, like your best friend yelled at you, you're not talking anymore, you don't know what to do. And by the time that the Sun trines Pluto, you know, you might come into your own, you might start to feel a little bit better about yourself, you might feel that self-empowerment, and you might be able to, you know, not just dwell on things anymore. Because it's been hard for you to take action this week. You know, Mars is in Pisces, like, what the fuck is action anymore? But with this trine happening, you might be able to develop a plan where, you know, you had your pity party and now it's time to act, and now it's time to turn the situation around and transform it into something that's positive and functional, and that, you know, will serve you and other people in the long run. So yes, that is how we end out the week. There aren't any major transits going on the Saturday. As you can hear, I've started shuffling my cards again. I really just went above and beyond talking about these transits and kind of forgot to pull the cards a little bit. So now we're gonna pull a couple cards and see just like what kind of guidance, advice, and help that tarot has to offer for us this week, the week of May 10th through May 16th. And we'll see what tarot has to say. First card is the reversed Queen of Wands. Second card, how many cards should I pull? I think I'll pull 4 cards. Second card is the Seven of Swords. If that's like not Mercury square Mars, I don't know what is. Third card, we got the Hanged Man. And the fourth card, we have the Two of Pentacles. Okay, so this spread is really about, ultimately, because we pulled, these 2 cards last, the Hanged Man and the Two of Pentacles. These are both decision cards, especially the Hanged Man. Like, what is the choice we're going to make? Are we going to stay somewhere and dwell on things, or are we going to, move on? And it's interesting that, the Queen of Wands is in reverse because we have, the Wands is, the suit of fire. The Wands is the suit of fire, so, and Mars is a very fiery planet, and Mars going into a place where, going from a place where it's in, where it's more functional to a place where it just doesn't know what to do. Like, how are we going to react to that energy? My cloth is getting all kinds of wrinkled. So how are we going to move into this place where, channeling our energy is not easy anymore? The reversed Queen of Wands can be very quick with her tongue, just like the Mars square Mercury aspect. So we really want to be careful of just speaking too soon. Speaking from our emotions might not be the best thing this week. It might just end up getting us in trouble. Because the Seven of Swords, swords is the suit of air. And Jesus Christ, I just lost my train of thought. Talk about air. Yeah, so the swords is the suit of air. And, the Seven of Swords is very manipulative in his ways. So, like I said, people might just be saying things. People might be saying things for the expressed purpose to manipulate and hurt you. So, coming from these 2 cards to the Hanged Man, you gotta choose. Are you gonna let people talk down to you? Are you going to allow what other people say? Are you going to allow that to just stay with you, or are you gonna let it go? Are you gonna throw it away? Are you gonna take what people are saying and just keep weighing it against your own beliefs? Or are you gonna pick your own beliefs over someone else and, choose to move on and choose to come into your own power? I think ultimately that is what that's about. And I just hit my camera as I was reaching to grab one more card to sum things up. So the last card I pulled, reversed Five of Pentacles, okay? So this is telling us we don't have to be in that dark place. We don't have to stay there if we don't want to. We can move on from the troubles that we encounter this week, and we can make something out of it. Ultimately, it will teach us a lesson not all lessons are easy to learn. They're not all painless. So there might be a lot of hurt this week. But ultimately, we can move past it and we can just grow stronger because of it. So yeah, I know this has been a lot longer than I intended it to be. But I hope you get something out of it. I hope anything I've said has resonated or has inspired or helped you in any kind of way. It's not really me, it's the stars and it's tarot. I am just a messenger. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.